Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the GFS, the GM, the ECMWF, the UKMO Operational Run, the GFS Ensembles, and we'll have a look at the 5-day UK Met Office precipitation and temperature. Now, for the last few days, we have been looking at the potential of cold and snowy weather in and around the Christmas period. Yesterday, we had a look at what was going to be happening, and we came to the conclusion that it looks like the most likely scenario now is Boxing Day beyond for any cold, snowy weather widespread. Still in the north, Christmas Day could be cold. And once again today, the models are being very confusing. Let's just say the uncertainty is massive and each run is flip-flopping. As we'll see in this, we have some of the runs going bitterly cold for the last week of December. Other runs, a couple of days of colder conditions and turning things a lot milder. But we could be in for a very interesting next few weeks with this blocking around. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow on Twitter as well, the links in the description. We'll also have a look in this video at some of the precipitation charts as well. As I know, I don't normally like to look at those too far out, but we're sort of 5 days away from something interesting potentially coming up. So we'll have a look at those, just for fun, of course, and we'll see how some of them are showing some very, very interesting conditions for Christmas Day and Boxing Day as well, others showing a little less interesting. So if you have a look at the GFS, now this is the 6 o'clock run, it's the latest run. You can see high pressure is ridging towards Greenland. Now it's brought a bit of a slack northeasterly flow. We've had a lot of cloud, misty, and a big inversion with some really quite cold temperatures. We saw our coldest night of the season so far up in Braemar in Scotland, and I'm sure that will probably be broken over the next couple of weeks. Now, beyond that, you can see the high pressure moves up, right up towards Greenland and establishes itself as a Greenland high. Now, we see this conflicting pattern of northerly winds with colder air and milder southwesterly winds. And on this GFS run, southwesterly winds win out initially before colder air does try and plunge in through Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Now, yesterday's run, or the 6 o'clock last night, had much colder air sinking southwards much faster, and we'd seen these lows sinking southwards, but the GFS 6 said has suddenly shifted everything further northwards. So as I said, the uncertainty is really confusing at this stage, and if we do have a look at the upper air conditions, you can see bitterly cold air just to our north, and that mild sector across northern England through Christmas Day, so snow potentially across Scotland, and we'll have a look at precipitation charts in a minute, before colder air does swing through beyond that. One thing we also saw with some of the runs yesterday within the GFS is it was going to go sustained cold with the blocking towards Greenland. Now you can see we've got a colder air mass over the top of the UK at the moment, but that Greenland block disappears by next Monday. And we go westerly. And that's not what we've been seeing on any of the runs recently. And we just, go mild westerly winds for the end of December, start of January. So I don't know if this is a bit of an anomaly run from the GFS. We've seen it quite a lot over the last few days. We won't be certain if it is an anomaly run or if it's caught onto something until we have a look at the 12Z and the call for the 6 o'clock run later as well. So we'll have to see how it does play out, but it has corrected itself further northwards. It still does show a couple of days of cold weather in around Boxing Day, 27th, 28th, but beyond that, it does go much, much milder. So, we'll have to see really what happens with that. So if we do have a look at the GFS precipitation, you can see really minimal precipitation around at the moment. The interest arrives by around Wednesday, Thursday time. Rain pushes in initially, turns to snow across northern Scotland, and then heavier rain pushes into the south with that milder air. Now, further northwards, through Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, heavy snowfall across parts of northern England and Scotland quite widely. Rain in the south. Now, as we head through Christmas Day into Boxing Day, that colder air sinks southwards, and we could see snow to low-lying areas in southern England by the end of Boxing Day, the days following that, and continued snow throughout the 27th, 28th, before westerly winds move back in and things turn much milder once again. So, a bit of a confusing run from the GFS, sort of flip-flopping between how cold it's going to get and the timeline as well, and longevity as well, really flip-flopping. Very, very unusual to see this sort of flip-flopping only sort of 5 to 7 days away from this potentially happening. So, as I said, we'll have to see what happens. Now, the GM run was by far the best run for cold and snow from this morning runs. So this is why I suspect the GFS run may be a bit of an outlier, because we're seeing runs like this GM run, which goes bitterly cold, even for Christmas Day and beyond. We actually want to have a look at the precipitation charts. Heavy snowfall, potentially. Now, as we run through, the high pressure ridges up towards Greenland, and you see that low trying to push in off the Atlantic through the 23rd. It gets shunted away by Christmas Eve, and we go into a cold easterly wind with cold air sinking southwards. And by Christmas Day, that -5 line is across the Midlands, central England, much further southwards than the GFS run, and we go bitterly cold with that low sliding into it. Heavy snowfall on that boundary through central southern England into the Midlands and northern England as well. Now, beyond that, one thing the GFS completely obliterated was this high pressure. However, the GM has it really quite strong, and we go into a sort of a batch of northwesterly winds, bitterly cold conditions, and that high pressure remaining a massive blocking feature with bitterly cold conditions all the way throughout the last days of December, and it doesn't look like it's going to be ending, and we would be into the absolute freezer. And if you have a look at the United Kingdom, have a look at the 2 metre temperatures, bitterly cold, minus double digits through central England. Really quite cold, and in the day, hardly getting above freezing, quite widely. Absolutely frigid down the southwest, minus 13 degrees throughout the early hours of Tuesday, the 28th. And by midday, temperatures still in -3 to -5. Bitterly, bitterly cold. And of course, the GFS run goes vastly different, with much milder air pushing in off the Atlantic. So this is why I say the uncertainty really is quite frustrating, two completely different runs from 5 to 7 days out, which is normally quite unusual. We normally do see some quite big disparity, maybe at day 8, day 9, day 10, but from day 5 to day 7, we should have a pretty firm idea what is going to be happening, and especially in the longer term as well, they should generally agree whether there's going to be a massive blocking high or the jet stream is going to completely topple through. I wouldn't expect to see this massive difference between having a massive Greenland high on the GM run to absolutely nothing on the GFS run. One of them is completely wrong. We'll have to see which one it is, or whether it does sort of meet in the middle. Now, if we do have a look at the GM precipitation charts, now have a look at those pressure charts. As you expect, this goes cold and snowy. Bitterly cold and snowy, I must say. So as we head towards the Christmas period, Thursday the 23rd, rain quite widely. But as we head through Christmas Eve, that cold air is sinking from the north, and you can see that rain pushing southwards. A lot of snow showers around as we head through Christmas Eve into Christmas Day. Snow, or rain initially, then turning to snow, pushing up from the south. And as cold air digs in from the north, we see an undercut. All of that turns to snow throughout the early hours of Christmas Day. So this scenario, many areas across central England will be waking up to a thick covering of heavy snow. And we see that continue throughout most of Christmas Day before eventually clearing through Boxing Day. But we still see a lot of convective showers pushing in from the east. And we remain bitterly cold. Heavy snow pushing in at times, and you can see anything inland is turning to snow. Right on the coast, maybe still a bit of rain, but widely on this GM run, everything really impacting land is turning to snow. Really bitterly cold conditions, that would be sending us into the absolute freezer for the end of December. It would be a historic cold smell over Christmas if we did see that happen with blizzards on Christmas Day. So, as I said, massive uncertainty. And remember, Christmas Eve is 5 days away now. So, in the next day, this should be pretty much resolved normally. But I suspect the models are going to keep us waiting. We're going to be we'll see some more flip-flopping from the models. And we'll have to see whether this GM run has got any backing, or whether that GFS one with the westerly winds moving in a week's time is more supported. At the moment, I would probably lean more towards blocking, because that's what we've seen in the longer term trends and the models in general recently. Not really too many westerlies, but whether the blocking that gives this GM this massive cold spell on the GM, I don't know where to say it will be to that extent. So I have to see, of course. Now, if we do have a look at the ECMWF, see how that does compare. Again, you see the blocking up towards Greenland, and then that low pressure tries to slide in, and for Christmas Day, we actually go pretty chilly. That -5 line is actually across central England. So this follows similar to the GM in terms of where that -5 line is placed. This low pressure to the south is not as vigorous, so there wouldn't be as much snow, if any. Again, we don't have the precipitation charts to hand, but would be potentially some snow before we go much colder with that air mass pushing in. But by Monday the 27th, we see the jet stream activate more significantly. Now, that blocking doesn't disappear. It's still there similar to the GM run, but the lows in the Atlantic are much stronger, which means they push through and we actually start to bring them slightly milder air from the south, at least for southern parts of England. And of course, there's much colder air just to our north. So whenever these lows do pull through, we do go bitterly cold. So on this run, not quite as cold as the GM, still be really chilly throughout the last 5 days of December, and would have big snow potential as well, depending on the exact position of the lows. Wouldn't be absolutely freezer conditions guaranteed, but there would still be a lot of cold weather and snowier weather around as well. So I do suspect the GFS run was a bit of an outlier, but we'll have to see really what happens. As I said, it could have caught onto something that the other runs haven't seen yet. And of course, it is the 6-hour run, whereas these are both the midnight runs, so it is 6 hours nearer to the event. So who knows really? But at the moment, the GFS is going mild after a couple of days of colder conditions. The other two runs are staying much colder, and the GM is just a wintry lover's dream, really. Now, if we do have a look at the UK Met Office run, this is the midnight run, as it has run out to 168 hours, so a week. And you can see high pressure up towards Greenland, and then we start to pull in some cold air from the north, and you see these sliding lows, and that's what gives the potential for snow. And you can see, similar to the other runs, including the GM, the GFS, the -5 line moves through the whole of the country, and stays through the whole of the country, all the way to 168 hours. Now, we still have that blocking feature to our north, but it's not quite as big and as strong as the GM is showing, so perhaps this wouldn't be as sustained, but there's no big low pressure waiting in the wings to bring in much colder, much milder conditions. We have quite a slack flow, jet stream far to our south, so we'd have another couple of days at least of colder conditions beyond Boxing Day. So UK Met Office run does go very cold, including Christmas Day. So, as I said, we'll have to see what happens. We'll have a look at the GFS Ensembles in a minute, and they put another spanner in the works as well. So it's not resolved, but it is looking decent for at least seeing a few days of colder, maybe snowy conditions throughout maybe Christmas Day to the 27th, 28th. But being anything long-term cold, you can see the models really are still struggling with it. So now if we have a look at the GFS Ensembles, you can see how, for London, we have massive uncertainty, of course. Pretty mild at the moment, but we have an inversion taking place, of course. But by the 23rd, we do start to put in some milder air from the southwest with some precipitation, so things turned for a period of time more unsettled with rain. And then we see a big drop of temperatures in around the 25th of December. So on Christmas Day, again, exact timings depends on the ensemble run. And they all dip to around -5 850 HPA. Still some milder outliers, of course, but those should at least hopefully diminish over the next day or so. And then it stays around -5 all the way to the 28th, maybe 29th. And then we see quite a few runs, including the operational run, going much milder. We still have some really quite cold runs that would be along with the GM run. But you can see the majority on the 6K go much milder, which is really interesting. If we go back to the midnight run, you can see many more are going much colder. You can see probably half of the ensemble members, or even more, are staying around the -5 or below. So a massive flip in the ensemble members for the 6Z run. I don't really know what's happened there. Good sort of 5, 6, 7 degree flip in the ensemble mean. So, as I said, we'll have to see really how this happens. Again, a lot of this does balance on what happens with tonight's runs and probably tomorrow morning's runs, because as soon as we're sort of 3 or 4 days away, there is really no room for this sort of flip-flopping. So I do suspect whatever happens over the next couple runs, whatever side comes out top will will start to, well, that's really what's going to happen. I do suspect in the next couple of days we will have a very firm idea what is going to be happening around the Christmas period and the days following it. Still, the last few days of December will, of course, have some uncertainty, but we should have a decent idea whether it's going to head into at least a good, decent spell of cold weather, i.e. sort of 4 or 5 days plus from starting on Christmas Day, or whether it's going to just warm up by the 29th or 30th of December. So we'll have to see really what happens. And the other bizarre thing is if we have a look at Glasgow as well, which has been really consistent, actually, of having a lot colder weather. And you can see it's still as consistent from around Christmas Day to around 29th. But once again, we see some much, much milder runs appearing right towards the end of December, early January. So I don't know what the 6Z ensembles have seen, but they've obviously seen something that indicates a much milder end to December and start of January. And as again, if we go have a look at the midnight run, you can see majority of the runs are really quite cold all the way to the end of December, with it not rising above the mean until around the 1st or 2nd of January. But on the 6Z run, it's rising above average on the 29th of December, getting well above average by the last couple of days of December. So, yeah, truly bizarre what's happening with the ensemble members, how they're flip-flopping. And again, this is one of the things why you've got to just keep looking at the models and not take one run as sort of guaranteed, let's just say. So we do finish up having a look at the precipitation charts from the UKMO Office Run. Now, this will lead into Christmas Eve, so we'll see what this is showing for snow potential, maybe through Christmas Eve. Now, as you can see, real little real little sunshine around, a lot of cloud around, and some murky, foggy conditions, drizzle in and around as well. And then as we head through the early hours of Monday, still a lot of cloud around. However, through Monday night into Tuesday, you can see some sunshine starts to appear, especially in the south. And we do still see some sunshine throughout Sunday afternoon before more cloud builds for Wednesday, as we have precipitation moving up from the southwest, potentially turning to snow across northern Scotland, but for the majority it's rain. But you can see colder, fresher areas moving in from the north, and on the 24th we'll have to see what happens. You can see much colder air to the north colliding with the much milder air, and I would suspect as we head through the 24th into the 25th, this band of precipitation will turn to snow in its northern edge as it gets undercut by the colder air. Again, we'll have to keep an eye on that over the next day or so when that comes into the model's time frame. Now, if we do have a look at temperatures, you can see earlier this morning, really quite cold across the north. Quite a widespread frost, especially to low-lying areas. Higher areas where we have not, because of the inversion with upper air temperatures being quite mild, higher areas actually are seeing the mildest conditions. So you can see this afternoon, really chilly, 3, 4, 5 degrees, maybe 6 or 7 for a few spots. And by this evening, again, another widespread frost across the north, especially, again, to low-lying areas. And by tomorrow afternoon, we're seeing temperatures, once again, maybe 4 to 7 degrees and really chilly across Scotland, as ever. As we head through Monday evening, widespread frost once again across many low-lying areas across northern England, Scotland, and even some frosty conditions maybe in central southern England as well, and parts of Wales. And then as we head through Tuesday afternoon, with the sunshine coming out a little bit, it could bring temperatures up slightly, but will still be pretty chilly in around 3, 4, 5 degrees, maybe even colder than that. And then for Tuesday night into Wednesday, because we have those clearer skies, we're going to be seeing a widespread frost. Early hours of Wednesday, widely Scotland, most of England, and parts of Wales as well will get really quite chilly below freezing. But by Wednesday, milder air is pushing up from the south. But you can see by early hours of Thursday, 11 or 12 degrees to parts of northern Wales, but you go just into northern England and southern Scotland, freezing. And that's where we've got that big disparity between air masses, and that's where precipitation is forming. And you head through Thursday the 23rd into the start of Christmas Eve, and you can see really bitterly cold temperatures in the north, around freezing or below, 7 or 8 degrees in the south. And that's where we see that temperature divide. We'll have to see how that does set up over the next few days. Where it does set up, there will be precipitation, and on its northern edge, potential for snow, southern edge, rain. So as we can see by these models, still a lot of uncertainty in play. So make sure you keep up to date with the videos. If you do want to do some more model watching, have a look at the 12 and 6Z runs. Make sure you check out the links I put in the description to Weather Central, the Weather Outlook. They both have it. The GFS, GM and ECMWF Run. So do check those out if you want to have a look at this in more detail. But of course, yeah, stay tuned to the videos and make sure you stay tuned to the Met Office warnings. I do suspect there'll be more sort of fog warnings potentially around, and then ice and maybe snow warnings as we head towards the Christmas period. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.